Hello, Grade 10 learners. Welcome to DepEd MP TV. This is teacher Juanita Maskit, your guide for today's lesson. For today, we will be discussing the formats in critiquing nonfiction and fiction, and then later on, you will have a hands-on activity on how to critique a chosen story for you to experience it. But first, be ready with your learning activity sheet, your pen, answer sheet, and of course, your mind and heart, as these are the things that you need in critiquing. So if you are ready, let's keep the ball rolling. Here is the learning competency for today's topic. Evaluate and make judgments about a range of texts using a set of criteria. For example, comparing arguments on the same topic, critiquing a short story, and others. And for the specific objectives, we have letter A, describe, analyze, interpret, and assess a given piece of writing comprehensively. Letter B, choose appropriate structure for critique of a given text. And letter C, write simple critique following the given format and guide. Writing a critique requires a comprehensive analysis of the story, article, or any reading text you have at hand. So you have to be equipped with reading skills and rigorous practice in critiquing for mastery. You also have to be equipped with a format in doing such. Keep in mind that to critique a piece of writing is to do the following. The writing process on how to write a critique. To critique a piece of writing is to do the following. First, describe. You give the readers a sense of the writer's overall purpose and intent. Second, analyze. Examine how long the structure and language of the text convey its meaning. Third, interpret. You state the significance or importance of each part of the text. And lastly, assess. Make judgment of the work's worth or value. Critiquing an article or an essay assigned by your teacher means you analyze the reading, identify your personal reaction, and develop a clear, concise explanation of support for your reaction. Your knowledge of the discipline in which you are working is the basis on which you build the explanation. Moreover, successful critiquing begins with reading. If you hate reading, well, from now on, you have to start loving it. Because how can you start critiquing without even trying to read the text or paragraph that you will critique? Well, I'm sure you'll have a difficult time critiquing a text without reading it first. So, to help you, here are some tips for writing a critique. First, you read the entire article for you to be able to identify the writer's main point. Also, underline any unfamiliar words as you read, but do not stop to look at them until you have finished reading. Second, look at the meaning of the unfamiliar words in the dictionary, and then carefully and slowly read the article again. This time, you look for the ideas the author uses to support the main point. Third, summarize the article in your own words in 1 to 2 sentences. Fourth, check out for the author's credentials and reliability of the sources by answering the following questions. First, is he a reliable author? Second, Can he or she be considered an authority on the subject? And third, are the sources upon which the article is based clearly and accurately indicated? Fifth, read the article one more time to analyze how the author has supported his or her ideas by answering the following questions. First, are there examples, facts, or opinions? Second, what is the author's bias? Third, are opposing arguments addressed competently? Fourth, are you convinced or unconvinced about the author's main point? Why or why not? Fifth, will you incorporate the information you read in your life or do you reject it? Why? There are two structures for critiquing. In this video, you will be taught of the critique format for nonfiction and fiction. Here they are. The critique format for nonfiction. In your introduction, you should introduce the work by stating the author or the name of the writer of the text that you are critiquing. You need also to state the title of the work and the source along with the date of publication. Also, polish a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the work that you have developed earlier and add it to your introduction. This leads up to your thesis statement, or what we call the main idea or the main point. For your body, you need to choose and use about 3 to 5 points to support your thesis statement. And the questions you have answered as you read should serve as a guide to help you select your points. For example, you can discuss the author's credentials or lack of credentials, the audience he or she aims at, and the appropriateness of the vocabulary, the amount and kinds of support used to back up his or her major ideas, the use and correct identification of outside research, how the author handles any biases or opposing opinions, the logic of the argument, how the author's ideas correlate with knowledge you already have. Now, let's take a look at this sample picture of an article about vaccination entitled, "Is compulsory COVID-19 vaccination a violation of human rights?" Now, the possible thesis statement that you can get from this article can be, COVID-19 vaccination would not be a violation of human rights. Take note that thesis statements or thesis statement can be directly stated in the article or it can be inferred by the readers. And here are the possible points that you can write in your critique. First, compulsory vaccination would be necessary in the interest of public health and safety. Second, it is for the protection of the rights and freedom of the humanity. And lastly, it is to ensure of the fulfillment of the country's positive obligation to protect its citizens. As for the body of your critique, you can use evidence from the work to demonstrate the point you are making. You can either paraphrase or quote directly. Also, explain why the evidence support your point. For example, you might say,
The author uses many statistics to prove his point, but he fails to indicate his source. He notes that 1 out of 2 marijuana smokers go on to use more dangerous drugs. However, he never says how he acquired that information, nor does he include reference at the end of the article. Should the reader trust that the statistics are accurate, or could they be the author's invention because he is opposed to all legalization of drugs? If no sources are acknowledged for statistics, the author casts doubt on his entire argument.
To sum it up, all the paragraphs that are found in the body of your critic should contain the 3 paragraph elements. First, you have to have your point or your points. Second, your evidences or your evidence if you only have one. And of course, the explanation or explanations of your evidences. In your conclusion, as always, you should know how to summarize your main points. And then restate your thesis statements in fresh words, meaning you should tell your thesis statement again using other ways of saying it. And then discuss the success and failure of the author to convince your readers by answering these 2 questions. Is the work significant to the readers? How does the work impact readers? Here is the critic format for fiction or literature. In your introduction, you need to state the author's name or the name of the writer of the story you're working on, plus the title of his work. Also, you include the brief summary or the description of the work as a whole, and then write a focusing sentence indicating what element or elements you plan to examine. And then the last one, you talk about the general indication of the overall significance of work. Now, let's have a short review on the elements of a short story that you can include in your critic. The first basic element is the character. In a story, you need to know who the antagonist characters or who the protagonist characters are. Setting. This answers the questions when, where, and what time. Point of view. Among the 3 identified point of view, the third person point of view is the commonly used point of view. Theme. This means the general idea of the story. If you have read or watched the play Romeo and Juliet, one of the theme of that play is young love. We have also the plot, which is composed of 5 parts. We have the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. After reading the story that you are critiquing, then you might have already chosen the elements you wish to study in your critic. Because in your body, you have to talk about them one by one. And so for the first element, you have to present the literal description, plus your detailed analysis and your interpretation. It goes the same with the second element, with the third element, and for other elements you want to study in your critic. As for the conclusion, you present your critical assessment of the value, worth, meaning, or significance of the work, both positive and negative. In here, you can answer the questions, so what? Or, is the work significant to you or not? Does it have value in your life or in the life of the readers as a whole? Or none at all? Next, you have also to write your consideration of those elements within the context of the work as a whole. When we say consideration, it means your reflection of those elements that you have chosen to study. And next, you need to give your overall interpretation of the elements. Take note of the elements that we have reviewed earlier in this video. Now that you are equipped with the formats in critiquing nonfiction and fiction, I'm sure that you are ready to do the activities in your learning activity sheet. But before that, here are some worth remembering reminders. Keep in mind that you cannot critique a story or article without reading it and understanding it fully. When writing your critique, make sure that you have your introduction, body, and your conclusion. Third, critiques are usually written in third person. Fourth, keep in mind that teachers want less summary and more analysis. Fifth, don't forget the overall look of your critique or the mechanics, such as your margin, your indentation, the size of your paper, font size, your font style, the cleanliness, and others. You better check it out with your teacher about his or her preference. For today's activity, you are to critique the story entitled The Monkey's Paw, found in your learning activity sheet. In Activity 1 on pages 3 to 8, read and understand the story and answer the questions inserted within it. Then do Activity 2 on page 9 by filling up the table with necessary information from the story. Your answers in Activity 2 will be used in Activity 3 on pages 9 to 10. Read and carefully follow the instructions in Activity 3. Please refer to the rubric provided on page 10. That's it for now. See you again next week, only here at DepEd MP TV.